Using computer audio. All right, I think it's recording. Okay, well, I think it's recording. Okay, welcome everyone to the postpartum preparation class with me, Dr. Allison. Let me just get everything set up and then we will dive right into this class. Thank you for joining me. Just want to make sure everything is good to go. Should be good to go. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Share. All right. So here we go. We should be good to go. Okay. Once again, welcome everyone to the postpartum preparation class. I'm Allison, or Dr. Allison, and I am a virtual postpartum doula. I'm a childbirth educator, and I'm also a breastfeeding consultant. So today we're going to be going through all what I feel like is the practical tips for postpartum that you can prepare for in pregnancy without it being too overwhelming. Because some things you kind of just learn while you're in postpartum, but some things I do want you to know before you even get to postpartum, so you're not like, no one told me this. I wish someone said something about this. And also not to only focus on labor, because I feel like when we're pregnant, all you think about is labor. Like, I got to get through labor. Is it going to be too painful? I'm afraid. A lot of people just focus on labor and then they have the baby and it's like, wait, now what do I do? So this was my attempt to help prepare a little bit without being too overwhelming. Okay. Was it going to do it? Okay. Yeah, so I hope to encourage you with tips on how to be prepared when baby comes. Well, this isn't live, so you can always ask me questions via email, the Facebook group. You can message me on Facebook or Instagram, and my name on Facebook is Ali Zebron, or Instagram, The Birth PT. Okay. All right, so let's jump right into it. The number one thing I would say is to have a postpartum plan. Everyone has a postpartum birth plan. But once again, we think about the labor, we don't really think about postpartum. So I recommend a postpartum plan. So what goes in a postpartum plan? Things like, who's going to help you with the baby? That's a big one. If you happen to be a single mom, who's going to be helping you? You need help. Everyone needs help. Every mom needs help. So who's going to be helping you, whether it's a friend, your mom, sister, whoever, even if it's just for little things, not being there all day long, but someone needs to help you at some point. So figure out who that person is and what type of role that they can play for you. And I know it's COVID, so we're very to be cautious of who comes over and spends time in the house, especially around a newborn baby and yourself. So think about those things in advance of who is this person? Are they adhering to precautions? Are they quarantining and, social distancing? So think about that person and who they are before you invite them in. So think about those things beforehand, and have a couple people on that list just in case, people get busy and all sorts of things. So who's going to help with baby? So create that village of multiple people. So not just somebody who can come in physically, but even people who you can talk to about baby stuff. So some people you can talk to about other stuff, but they don't want to hear about baby. They don't know what to do. So they might be good at listening, but they may not be good at advice, which is also why I recommend having a postpartum doula. Some doulas come in and they help take care of baby and you in person, but if you're not comfortable with that, there's also virtual options like me. plug. But there are also virtual doulas, or even those who will just call you on the phone just to check in on you. So start creating your village, your doula, and mom or sister, friend, something like that. Meal prep and meal planning. So you can do this by yourself. So you're already pregnant. If you're watching this, you should be pregnant. You shouldn't be watching this while in postpartum. So if you are doing this by yourself, I recommend starting that third trimester, because that last month, you might be too tired. That's in my opinion, too late. If you have the energy, that's fine. But third trimester, I would say start prepping those meals. I don't know how big your freezer is, but if it's like mine, it's not that big. But prep some things that you can put in the freezer and then just pull out when you're hungry, when babies are ready here. So prep a couple of those meals, things that you know you'll like, that's easy to freeze, soups, chili, lasagna, if you know lasagnas, and rice dishes, things like that that you can easily just pull out, put in the oven, warm up, things like that. So if you're gonna do that, I recommend third trimester, 27 weeks, 30 weeks. And around that time, start prepping some of those meals. Even if it's like 2 meals, hey, you got 2 meals that you don't have to make. Yeah, so that's my tip for that. If you're gonna have friends do it, I also recommend friends do it, not if. Friends do this. This is a job that your village should be doing. So that's something where a lot of people either have a meal train for you. I forgot the other thing. There's another name for another one, but a meal train. And they can even have like a website, and they can even plug in. You can even tell them like, I'm vegetarian or I'm gluten-free, and you can put that in there so they know, okay, only get stuff that's this or that, and they can either make it for you or they can buy it for you. And it's already like there's a calendar and weeks on there where if there's a bunch of people, they can see that so-and-so took this day. So I can go on this day, and you can even write like a list of things you like. So people can kind of go based off of that, or restaurants that you like that they can just pick something up. They don't have to make it. They can just, oh, she likes Pizza Hut, so I'm just going to go to Pizza Hut this day and pick something up from there. So that's like an easy way that friends can help, because a lot of people always ask like, oh, you had a baby, congratulations. Let me know if you need anything. This is something that you need. You need food. Postpartum, you need food. That's not the time to get snatched. It's the time to eat and nourish your baby and rest. We're going to get into that a little bit later, but meals, definitely have that meal train going. Another one thing that I want to say about that, I think I'll go into it a little bit later, is the healthy, nutritious meals. I'll talk about it a little bit later in nutrition, of what friends can do for that. Okay, let's keep going. Going back, postpartum plan, going back to work and when. So some people already know when they have to go back to work. Some jobs only give you 6 weeks, 12 weeks, 10 weeks. They already say like, okay, you're coming back on this day. So you already know I'm going back on this day, and you have to prepare for that. So you already got that date in your mind. So what are you going to do on that day? Who's going to stay with the baby? Is baby going to daycare? Is baby staying with grandma? Is baby staying with dad or partner? Who's baby staying with? Yeah, so figuring that out. Are you pumping? Are you going to be pumping? Or are you just going to transition to formula or a bottle? Like, what are you going to be doing surrounding those types of things? And for some of these things, you don't have to have it set in stone. It's just to get thinking about it, so you're not overwhelmed. And in the postpartum time, that 4th trimester, you're not overwhelmed. You already kind of thought about it a little bit, and now you're just revisiting the thought, because things change. You have the baby and like, oh wait, I don't want to go back to work. If you have that option, I want to stay home. So just having those things in the back of your mind. Or you might have been, I'm going to breastfeed, I'm going to pump, and then for whatever reason you don't want to do that anymore. So it's just having those things in mind. Especially if you're going to do a daycare, are there spots for the daycare? So you might want to think about that ahead of time, to call the daycare and say, I'm going to need this day or this month. Do you have availability? Can you put me on the list? So things like that. Self-care is the next on the list. Schedule, what's that going to look like for you? And that might change once you become a mom. So once you have baby, if you like to always go play tennis, baby might not be able to come with you to play tennis, or, what is that going to look like for you? Can you, if you want to get back to doing something, can someone watch baby while you do those things that still give you that joy, and get you out of the house or get you doing something else that's going to let you relax a little bit? So think about those things. Now, these, like, again, it doesn't have to be all set in stone. It doesn't have to be very, very detailed, but this is the plan here. It's just to get you thinking about some of these things. So it's more of like a postpartum guide, but just to get you thinking. So to minimize you being overwhelmed later on. Next is postpartum doula, coach, therapy, PT, having a nanny, just those people to think about having in your life, just to get you thinking, and finances. So to plan for that, because you're going to be home, depending on your situation, do you have enough finances to get you through that maternity leave if you're going to go back to work? So how's those finances looking? Do you need to save some money for that time period? Now you got a baby, you got to, if you're buying formula expensive. So do you have money for that? The added person that's going to be in your house is added baby. Daycare is not cheap. It's not cheap. So do you have the finances ready for that? Or even a nanny, and think, those added things. Start thinking about that and how that looks with your finances. So that's postpartum plan. Ooh, yeah, it's postpartum plan. Okay, now once you get home, babies don't really need too much. I thought I hurt my baby. Babies don't really need too much. I always see moms posting, oh, what are, your top things that you need in postpartum? It's a big list of toys and contraptions and devices, and babies really don't need that much stuff. They need, I like to keep it simple. I'm kind of a minimalist. They need onesies, diapers, wipes. That's about it. They pretty much just sleep and eat and poop. That's about it. They don't really, they need the bassinet and some of those things. So just think about the core things. Like they need some clothes, they need some diapers, some wipes, bottles, and, the bassinet and something to, hold the baby with. That's kind of about it. Don't overwhelm yourself with all of these different contraptions and bottle warmers and wipes warmers and toy. Like they're newborn, so they don't really need toys yet. So don't get too overwhelmed, but babies don't really need much. So that's why my next point is rest. Just get that sleep. The baby sleeping, try to sleep with baby. You don't need to be getting up and doing all kinds of things and cooking and cleaning. That's why you have those friends in those early weeks to bring by those meals or you already made meals. So you just got to kind of just warm it up. You don't need to be doing laundry. Like this is where your village comes in. So rest, feed baby, sit down, get that rest in those early days, those early, 1 to 2 weeks, just get to know baby. And that's my recommendation. Create a snack, water, diaper, wipes, nursing station. So you don't need to be laying in the bed 24/7. Don't do that. But, if you're going to be sitting on the couch, nursing the baby, have a little station on the couch. So you got your snacks, healthy snacks right there, granola bars, water, diapers, wipes, and sit and feed the baby right there. Or if you're going to be on if you have a chair somewhere else, have that little container with that set of stuff someplace else. So you happen to be walking around and the baby's crying and, oh, here's a chair. I'm here. I'm all set up. You don't sit somewhere and you're like, oh man, I don't have anything that I need. I'm hungry. Now I got to get back up. Now the baby's. So just have those stations around your house. Take a shower. Take a shower. Have somebody hold the baby. Just take a shower. Just wash it all. away. You got home from the hospital. Sometimes you can take a shower in the hospital, but depending on the situation, you have to wait till you get home. So get home, take a shower, have someone hold the baby, just get clean, feel refreshed, and then rest. My last point on that. Okay, self-care and hygiene. You'll figure this out in the hospital. You'll be introduced to this in the hospital. Right after you have baby, there's going to be some bleeding, and it's heavier than a normal period. So in the hospital, they're going to give you pads. They should give you all of this stuff. They should give you pads, a spray bottle, an ice bag, some witch hazel or witch hazel pads just for dabbing the area, disposable underwear. They should give you all of that stuff. I don't think I've heard of a hospital that didn't. Even if you got like one of something, they should give you something. So you should be able to take all of that stuff from the hospital because they're just going to throw it away. So anything that is in that room, take it. So it's going to be a bit of a heavier period. So you're going to have a big, thick pad, and you're going to have to change that quite frequently. And that should last maybe a week, and it should, die down after that. But for that first week, you're going to need that big pad, a spray bottle of water. It's supposed to have water in there. So I recommend just putting warm water in there from the sink, warm water. And then after you need to use the bathroom, pee, just spritz that area with warm water and then dab with toilet paper. Don't wipe. It's still going to be very raw and a little bit painful. So just dab. The witch hazel pads they give you should also help with just healing and cleaning as well. And the disposable underwear, that underwear just holds that pad in place. You can use your own underwear, but that disposable underwear just helps hold that big, thick pad in place. And also the ice pack that you can have in that area too. So that's what you need for that. Ice for 3 days or so, dab, don't wipe, spray the area with warm water. You may need stool softeners for that first poop. Now that first poop can be a little scary. So if no one's told you that before, I'm telling you now, first poop can be a little bit scary. So you may need stool softeners. And that's something that, your partner or whoever's in the house with you can either run out and go get if you happen to forget it. That's what my husband did that for me. Like, I need stool softeners. Go. He ran and got it for me. Or you can just have one on hand in the house before you get home. That could be something you just get right now and it's there. So stool softener is not a laxative, stool softener, like a DocuState, something like that, just to soften your stool. You don't want to be diarrhea. It's just to soften it. So when you're pushing, it's not like a harder stool. It's just when you're pushing it, just ease it out. So less pressure on that pelvic floor, on the perineum. Stool softeners. And it's over the counter. You don't need a prescription. So first times in the bathroom might take a little bit of time because there's a lot of pressure on that area. You don't want to rush it. So don't rush. You especially don't want to rush and just put more pressure there than that's needed. Have someone watch the baby. So if the baby's crying, just have someone watch the baby. This is important just to get through that first poop, that first time bowel movement. So you could just sit there, relax those pelvic muscles, just breathe through that first bowel movement. And then your body will get used to it after that. So have someone watch that baby for that. Belly binding. This, you don't have to do this. This can help, especially if you're lifting baby, or if you feel a little bit weaker. This can help just tie everything together, hold that abdomen together. And wearing time for any of these is like up to 23 hours a day for about 2 weeks. It's just support for lifting or bending and just holding everything together, those muscles. It helps with healing a little bit. You don't have to do it. You don't have to, but it's just something some people do, and they say they feel a little bit better with just that extra support. That's a little picture of an abdominal binder. You can just get on Amazon. It's not too expensive, more expensive ones, but it's basically just a wrap, ties around, holds everything together. Yeah. C-section incision. So if you happen to have a C-section, that's what the scar will look like. Here's my cursor. That's what the scar will look like after, like that. Well, not like right after. This is like a completely healed one. So your scar will be that low. So if you have a C-section, you're going to want to dab the area clean with warm water every day. You're going to want to wear loose clothing. The belly binder is not for the C-section. You just don't want to mess with that scar. That's still healing. The belly binding is not for that, in my opinion. Some people might say something different. But yeah, wear loose clothing, and you're going to want to log roll to get out of the bed. You don't want to sit straight up. So you're going to want to roll and then push yourself up. I recommend that for vaginal and a C-section because it might be a little swollen, a little bit painful. You can ask your medical team about painkillers and what medicines you can take. About by 2 weeks, the scar should look and feel much better, but full healing is going to take up to 3 months. So it's a lot more healing time that goes into having a C-section, but it will heal and it's going to look like this. And for everybody, I recommend pelvic floor PT just to get that scar mobile and to prevent any issues down the line with pelvic floor. So even just one session with a pelvic floor physical therapist, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. Oops. Oh, and if you happen to experience fevers, your scar is really red and warm, call your doctor about possible infection. You just really want to watch that. Okay, breastfeeding basics. Breastfeeding is all about, I feel like there's a light in my face. Breastfeeding is all about supply and demand. I love lactation cookies. I feel like they work, but generally, and the overarching theme of the supply, the milk supply is supply and demand. If you don't breastfeed, your milk supply is going to go down. If you keep on breastfeeding, if you breastfeed more and more and more, your supply is going to go up. So that's where sometimes there's an issue. People have issues with breastfeeding because they either switch to formula midway or they supplement. Not that that's bad, but that's where some issues can arise. So if you're a supplement, you also got to watch your supply because it can drop. If you're not feeding the baby, your supply will drop. So just remember that to get more milk, you got to nurse more. Yeah, so a proper latch. This is what a proper latch looks like. So that baby's mouth is wide open, the lips are flared out, the mouth covers the entire areola or most of it. Your baby should never just be on the nipple. That's going to be very painful and you won't last long in your nursing journey because it's going to be cracked, bleeding, sore. You don't want that. So to have a good latch around that whole areola as wide as possible. If baby's not latching correctly, you can always just put your clean finger in their mouth, delatch them, take them off, relatch. And these are just some basics. I can always go over this again in postpartum with anybody who's having some issues. That's what I do. But these are just some basics just to get in your mind. So you have in the back of your mind, like, oh yeah, she said that. Let me try that. And if you forget, it's okay. This is just to familiarize yourself. There's different types of holds. Oh, I didn't include a picture with these. That's okay. So football hold, if you're going to hold a football, you see my hand. Football, baby's head is going to be here, attached to your breast. That's a football hold. Cradle is going to be like that, like you're going to cradle, a baby. So the head is going to be over here on this breast or vice versa on this breast. Or you could be leaning back, baby's on top of you like that, or side lying, baby will be on the bottom breast. Colostrum is the first milk. So if you hear that term thrown out there, it's that first milk. It's very fatty. It's a different color. A lot of times it's more yellow or a deeper yellow color. It's still milk. So it's still very important. It's like that first milk that they get, very nutritious, full of all kinds of good stuff for their immune system. So it's still very good for them. And it's still milk, and milk changes. It's like this magical liquid. It just changes with baby's needs. So milk is not the milk that a toddler, if you're nursing a toddler, it's not the same milk as a newborn. It's still milk, but it changes based off of what the child needs and how old they are, and what they need at that age. So it's just, and you can I should put like a picture in here, but you can see you can even Google like milk at different stages, and you'll see like colostrum, then milk at 1 month, and milk at like 6 months, and milk at a year. Like changes consistency. And some people say like, oh, you see, like it's not as thick, it's not as nutritious anymore. You see how thin it is? It's not good for them. That can't support them. I'm like, no, it just changes based off their needs. It's still good. It's still supporting them. They're still getting everything that they need from that. Just because it's not the same doesn't mean it's still not good for them. It's just changing based off their needs. What I always find that's so interesting is that a baby can survive off just breast milk for an entire year plus. In some countries, that's all the baby gets. And they grow into this big child, and that's it. They were fine. I feel like that's so amazing. Like just from breast milk, that's so amazing. And that's all they need. Like you don't necessarily need to give your baby food that first year. They can survive off just breast milk. But we do, because we do. And that's fine too. But I feel like that's just so amazing. So your real milk comes in within 3 to 5 days. You're going to feel engorged. It's going to feel tight. Your breasts are going to be huge. They're going to be huge. And it's going to be, you'll know when your milk comes in. You're like, oh, okay, it's here. Come on, baby, let's eat. So that milk is going to come in. So don't think like you're making oversupply at that time. It's 3 to 5 days. Your milk is coming in. It's working. And your milk will regulate based off of how much baby is eating and nursing, and based off their needs, it'll regulate. And you won't feel that engorgement all day long. It'll regulate based off of their needs. Mastitis. So mastitis, if you're having like a fever, if your breast is like painful, and if you're having like a fever, it's painful, it's reddened. A lot of times it's on one side. If you're having those, if you're having any of those symptoms, call your doctor because you may need some antibiotics. So definitely call your doctor on that. Definitely look out for that. And you'll know. It's not going to be like, oh, I feel a little bit. No. You will know you have mastitis. So call your doctor. You may need antibiotics. And you still have to breastfeed on that side. Don't neglect that painful side. And I know you're going to be like, it's so painful, I don't want to breastfeed. You still have to breastfeed. That helps if there's clogged ducts in there as well. The nursing baby is the best resource to get the milk out of there and unclog those ducts. That is the best way. So you still have to nurse even though it's painful. I know us moms are super women, but yeah, and the doctor's going to tell you that too. But other than that, breastfeeding should not be painful. Should not. If it's painful, like I said in the beginning, if they're nursing just on that nipple, that's going to be painful. But if they have a really good latch, it should be a breeze. It'll just be like, oh, something's there. Yeah, so it should not be painful. If it is, definitely see a breastfeeding consultant, lactation consultant about that to help you find the best latch and troubleshoot what is really going on. Because give you a couple other things that go on other than a incorrect latch. Lanolin, can you see me? I don't want to be too, okay. Lanolin cream. So if you are having some tenderness, or it happens to be cracked or dry, or your nipples, lanolin cream. So Lansano, the brand, has a cream. Medela has a cream. There's creams out there. Everyone has a cream, lanolin, and that stuff works like magic. So, and baby can still breastfeed with the cream still on there. You can use coconut oil, not safe for baby, just rub it on there. Or you can even just take some breast milk and rub it on the cracked nipples too. But lanolin cream, I swear by that stuff. If you're having some of those cracked nipples. But I advise you not to get to that point because it's going to continue to be painful because babies nurse all day long, 8 to 12 times a day, sometimes even more. So there's not a lot of time to recover before the next feeding. So if it gets to that cracked, dry, bleeding stage, it kind of just prolongs it before it's fully healed because baby's just constantly on there and it's just painful. Clearly, I've had that happen. Okay, baby wearing. Oh, don't you like this picture? Baby wearing. This is one of the best things, especially for a newborn and even up to toddler stage. My baby was on my back. My toddler was on my back today. So it's still very helpful. It's still very comforting for all children. They just want to be close to mommy, especially a newborn. They were in the womb. They were in this wonderful environment that was warm and dark, and they were getting all this nutrition 24/7. They were hearing your heartbeat and your voice, and it was just great. And then they came out into this bright, loud, cold world. So babies love to be held. They love to be right on mommy's chest. They can hear your heartbeat. So this position, they love this. And if you're having, I think the next slide is about crying. If your baby's crying, put them in this position. It's front hold is better for those early months until about 6 months until they can hold their head up. Then you can switch to the back. Or if you're a pro, you can put your baby on their back. In the early days. The back will be easier for your back, but front hold is going to be a little bit better so they can hear that heartbeat. And it's going to keep them warm and make them feel a little bit safer. So that's a good tip to help calm them down. Doesn't always work, but it does work a lot of the time. Crying. Babies cry. It's what they do. It's not always something's wrong. It's not always something. Sometimes they just want to communicate. Hey, I'm hungry. I'm hot. I'm cold. I want mommy. I'm sleepy. Something. That's the only thing they can do. They can't talk. They can't, they can barely see. But newborns can't really see. They might be able to see, I think, a couple inches in front of them. So that's why I think they can see, like when you're nursing, that distance. So they can see your face. So they love looking at you and mommy and at faces because that's just the distance that they can see. And those are the things that they can kind of make out, eyes and like lips moving. But they can't really see much else. So imagine if you couldn't see, you're going to be like, hey, everyone, I'm hot. That's all they know how to do. So, but sometimes something is wrong, like colic. They're unable to be soothed. So if you're holding your baby and you have your baby wrapped up and you're walking around and bouncing and they're still not being able to be soothed, it could be another issue like colic, gas, reflux. Could have a gassy tummy. And those are some of the things you can talk to you about your doula or even with your doctor if there's something they can help you with. But generally, it's just a tough ride with that colic. I'm not a colic expert, but yeah. So I recommend baby wearing. Swaddling is just that wrapping up the baby so they're in that blanket wrapped up. For gas and reflux, I recommend burping in between feeds. So if you nurse the baby, okay, now you're going to switch to the next side, burp the baby, burp, then switch to the next side. If they're having issues with like gas and reflux and things like that, that's just one tip. Infant sleep. So infant parent sleep. This is a rough one. Some babies just don't sleep. And I can always recommend you to a sleep consultant or a baby sleep expert. I know of a good one. if you're having trouble if your baby's having trouble sleeping and some of these things aren't really working, I can recommend you to someone I know, and she's great. But yeah, baby parent sleep. So I like this setup here because you're right next to baby and you don't have to get out of the bed and walk across the room or walk to a whole nother room. The baby's right there. What's wrong with that to me? So I like this, and this is exactly what I did until he hated it, and then he was in my bed. So sleep when baby sleeps, I recommend that in those early days. I recommend if you have a frequent waker, go to bed at night when baby goes to sleep, and try to go to bed earlier. So instead of like, oh, this baby won't sleep, it's 1 o'clock, like try to start that bedtime routine earlier, like 7 o'clock. Like, okay, we're turning off the lights, we're shutting off all the noises. This is going to be a routine. So I recommend establishing a routine early, just so you can get into that routine. So baby just gets into a routine. Oh, it's 7 o'clock. We're turning off the lights. It's quiet. I'm in my bed, or so they get into that routine. So you can get into a routine. So like, okay, 7 o'clock, baby's going to go to sleep. I can go to sleep. We can at least start this nighttime routine. Oh, let's say they get 3-hour stretches, so they can get into that pattern. So I recommend that, starting a routine, keep daytime sunny. So if naps during the day, keep it like this. Keep the lights on, whatever, it's daytime. They'll sleep during the day, they will. And at nighttime, keep it dark so that they can get their days and nights set. And at the end of the day, whatever gets you the most sleep. So don't fall into any trying to keep up with other people or trying to compare yourself to other people. And do whatever gets you the most sleep, because that's what's going to keep you sane. And those people are not in your house. They're not with you all day long. They're not trying to soothe this crying baby. Do whatever gets you the most sleep. If that baby sleeps best wrapped up on your chest, do that. If the baby sleeps best in a room far away, do that. Whatever is going to get you the most sleep. Because at the end of the day, that's what matters. You're sleeping, baby sleeping, we're good. Co-sleep, bassinet near the bed, whatever's going to be also safest. If you're a wild sleeper and you're all over the place, don't put the baby in your bed. Be safe. That's just going to be my tip right there. Okay, exercise. My motto is, if you did not do it before, do not try it now. If you've never done P90X, you've never done CrossFit, you've never ran a day in your life, this is not the time to try that. So this goes for during pregnancy and after. If you're pregnant, if you've never ran, this is not the time to run. Like, your body's going through so many changes. This is not the time to start something new. But if you were this Olympic athlete and, you've run miles or whatever, it's going to be different for an Olympic athlete because their body's going to be in a whole nother level. They're going to be able to get back to things a little bit quicker. So that's why it's not good to compare, because people are all at different stages. If you've never even exercised, you can't expect now I'm going to get snatched. I'm going to do this. You're going to hurt yourself. Basically, you're going to hurt yourself, or you're going to just be too tired. It's not going to go well. So depending on where you were, if you were doing a lot of walks before, you're going to be able to go back to walking a little bit quickly. So regardless, I recommend walking from day one. Just go for a walk, and the distances will get longer and longer. You might start off with, I'm just going to walk to the mailbox and back to the house today. Good for you. Tomorrow, try to walk to the stop sign, or tomorrow, extend the distances throughout the days. So short walks into longer walks. That's what I generally recommend. I don't recommend running generally until 12 weeks. So if you especially were not this, I'm sorry about this light, the sun, now it's leaving. if you weren't running before, this is not the time to do that running. You don't want to get hurt. Your body's still healing. Give your body that time to heal. I recommend starting out with some easy exercises, low level until 6 weeks generally. If you are a sport, if you're an athlete and you're trying to get back to whatever, I definitely recommend seeing a pelvic floor physical therapist or an orthopedic physical therapist, a trainer who really knows postpartum bodies. That's not going to get you hurt. But generally some low-level exercises just to strengthen up that core, working on breathing, some bridges, just maybe some marches, some mini squats, like something really low level. Because you got a baby to take care of all day long. You're not really getting the same amount of rest you were before. Yeah, so that's what I say about that. Pelvic floor PT. Now, pelvic floor PT can happen day 1. So it's not just after 6 weeks. If you're a lot of PTC women in the hospitals, I did in acute care, we saw a woman right after they gave birth. So and you might be, oh my goodness, what did you do? We were just helping women learning how to get out of the bed correctly. So remember that earlier I was teaching you that log roll, and log roll out of that bed. So if women are having any types of pain and they're in the hospital, those are the types of things we're going to be going over. How to stand up safely, how to get out of the bed, things of that nature, breathing, working on breathing just to get that core activated in the right way. So those types of things. We're not doing internal exams in the hospital right after you gave birth. No. Usually we do an internal exam after that 6-week mark. Once you're cleared by the OB to return to sexual intercourse, then after that, we would do an internal exam on our evaluation. So pelvic floor PT can review bed mobility in the hospital, especially for C-sections, lifting safely, breathing, restoring the core, safe exercises, and so much more. After 6 weeks, an internal exam can be performed to check for diastasis recti, that separation of the abdomen, prolapse, weakness, leaking, core, strength, pain, and more. If nothing's wrong, then it's better than to find out months later, and then now you have to play catch up to do something about it. So it's better to just have an evaluation, and then you're done. Like you just know what to look for, or maybe just one treatment session of going over a couple of exercises and you're done. Then, finding out months later that you got some catch-up work to do. And then you can be informed on what to look for in case something happens. 6-week checkup with the OB. Oops. Let's do that. So they're going to check on your incisions, your stitches if you needed stitches, talk about birth control, anxiety and depression screen. They're going to do an internal exam to make sure everything is healing on the inside. And then that's about it. They're like, you're good to go. You can have sex again. Good luck. See you when you have another baby. That's about it. So be sure to ask about pelvic floor PT because most of them won't tell you that. A lot of them don't even know about it, but the word is getting out more and more. So ask about pelvic floor PT, and for referral, even if they say everything is okay, that you don't need it, speak up and say, no, I want to see a pelvic floor PT because I want to make sure everything is okay, and I want recommendations for exercise. Even sometimes that will just get you through the door. I want recommendations for exercise. I want to get back to whatever, and if you nag them enough, they'll just write you a prescription. Yeah. Another thing I wanted to say is that, so this is leading into the next one, the anxiety and depression screen. Do not lie on this screen because just don't. You can get the help that you need. You don't need to compare yourself. You don't need to feel like you're a super mom, because if you just say, yeah, I don't have depression, I'm not going to hurt myself, the baby's fine, I'm fine, everything's fine. Like if you just say that, they're like, okay. You have to tell them. They're not going to really dig any deeper. They don't have time for that, clearly. So And don't feel ashamed if you feel any of those things, because they might say, hey, why don't you just go talk to somebody? It's not like, oh my gosh, she's gonna do this, let's lock her up and take her baby away. That's not gonna happen. If you just say, like, yeah, I'm feeling a little bit sad, or I don't feel as interested in some of the things I was interested, like there's all these different questions. So if you even just check one of the, if you are feeling that, don't feel pressured to not check it, because they may just recommend some therapies, talk to somebody, they may recommend other things. It doesn't have to out the jump put you on medication. And just talking to somebody can help prevent furthering into depression and anxiety. So signs of anxiety and depression, it can be wanting to harm yourself or baby, not interested in baby, constant crying beyond baby blues. You might have a little bit of that hormonal fluctuation where you might, have some tears and some boo-hoos, but this is beyond that. Like you're constantly crying, unable to take care of yourself. I'm sorry about this light. Unable to take care of yourself, not wanting to get out of bed, not interested in activities, having fun, laughing, sleeping too much, no hope. Those are some of the signs, but beware of high functioning, but depressed. So foggy brain, fatigue, despair, just going through the motions. A lot of times that gets underdiagnosed because you're doing everything. You're going to work, you're taking care of the baby, you're doing all the things, but you're not the same. And you know in yourself that you're not, like, something's off, but maybe I'm just tired. Like, be aware of those things as well, because that can also be depression. I speak from experience. And that going undiagnosed for years ends up like you're further along where you're like, you could have had something to done about it. So beware of those high functioning symptoms as well, because that you can also benefit from therapies and just talking to somebody, sometimes some medication for a short period of time. Nutrition. So I'm going to go back to what I was going to talk about in the beginning. Nutrition. So early postpartum, what I want you guys to be eating is more warm foods. Avoid cold food. So cold things like a salad, skip that. Smoothies are good, but skip that. Like, I'm talking about early postpartum. Like, you just had this baby yesterday. Warm foods, healthy, nutritious, hearty foods. So stews and soups and potatoes and broths and beans and greens and oatmeals, all of those things. So you don't want anything hard and crunchy and cold, like a cold sandwich. You don't want that. You want warm and hearty bowls of food. That's going to give you the most packed nutrition for the healing of your body. So I'm not saying you can't have that stuff during your postpartum season. Some people say, like, for the first 40 days, don't have any of that. But I'm talking at least day 1, 2, and 3, that first week. Try to get those hearty, warming meals get all of those nutrients back into your body. Avoid sugars and processed foods, empty caloric foods, fried and oily things. So I know you just had this baby and you're like, I deserve that burger. You can eat it, but I mean, if you're really thinking about the nutrition for your body, you would avoid that. So I'm not saying you can't have it. I'm just saying there's better options. And typically I urge people to eat those warming foods, not a warm burger, but a warm, soups and stews with the beans. That's going to give those lentils. That's going to give you that power-packed protein, and that's easy to digest. Because, your system just went through a whole lot. And you don't want to tax it even more with like oils and fries and stuff like that. But, to each his own, but that's my recommendation. Return to sex. Take it slow. You're still healing. Just because the doctor gives you the green light, let me move this out the way. Just because the doctor gives you the green light, you're still weak in your pelvic floor. Some people can't wait to get back to it. And some people are like, oh my goodness, I'm going to say the doctor said wait 6 more weeks. So everyone, it's always interesting to see those two dynamics. So, but regardless, take it slow because your pelvic floor is still weak. It still might be slightly painful or discomforting, which is normal, but severe pain, like, oh my God, like it's stabbing, that should not happen. If you're at that point, intercourse needs to stop and you need to seek a pelvic floor physical therapist to do a thorough internal exam because something's off. You can have some pelvic floor dysfunction, which there's something to do about it. So don't wait. Don't just keep trying, because you could cause a little bit more damage. So if it's severely painful, or you're in agony, just see a pelvic floor PT. We can get you fixed up. But slight pain, like, oh, this is kind of uncomfortable. And that's normal, first 1, 2, 3 times, but after that, it should go away. It should be, okay, and then back to being pleasurable. Yeah. Self-care. So we talked about a little bit about this in the beginning. So journaling, that's good. Discovering who you are within your new role as a mom, because now you've added this role to who you are. It's not all of who you are, but it is a big part of who you are, especially in those early days, figuring out who you are as a mom. Who am I? How do I mom? Like, how do I parent? It's like all this newness, figuring it out, and it could get a little taxing with all the changes that the baby goes through and that you go through. So discovering who you are again. Do things that you like. Find out your new likes, your new dislikes. Now that you become a mom, you may be like, I don't like that anymore, or I don't think that's funny anymore. I don't think this is enjoyable anymore. I like these types of things, or I'm so interested in this now. So find out, keep discovering you. It's all a journey. Make more time for you, because a happy mom is a better mom. If you're really depressed and you're just like, I'm just in this house all the time, like you're not gonna be as happy, So find out what you like. Making time with your partner. My picture is just never in the right spot. Making time with your partner. So inside dates. While baby sleeps, order some food, TV, movie, games, talk, connect. A babysitter that you trust. You can go out for a walk. Setting time each week is important. Speaking up when you need more connection, or you can just take the baby with you. In those early days, sometimes the baby just sleeps a lot more than like a 6-month-old or 8-month-old. Sometimes that like first week to that first month, the baby sleeps so much more that you can actually just take the baby along. It's like, oh, the baby's sleeping. We can actually have a conversation. We can do this. We can do that. So you can take the baby with you on a date. I did that in the early days. I know a lot of moms that just take the baby with them because the baby's asleep. It's not the same, but won't last forever. So take the baby with you on a date, a walk, coffee, drive around while the baby sleeps. Find something that you both enjoy and commit to doing it, and rediscover who you both are. Because now that you're parents, it's a whole new, it's just new. So take time to figure that out and have some patience. Creating community as a mom. So Facebook groups, virtual meetups, group chats. I know it's now different with COVID. You can't get out as much and sometimes you don't want to, like you don't know where this person's been. I'm not risking it with my baby. So, virtual meetups, call a friend, and those types of things. I love those Facebook groups. You can see all what moms are talking about and seeing that you're not alone. Like, oh, they posted this question. Like, oh, I didn't know someone else struggled with that too. So things like that. Now we have to kind of just shift now as with the times. Oh, that's it. Yeah, so that's all I have to say about postpartum. I kind of wanted to keep it short to not overwhelm you, but I'm always here to go over any of these things again because we have mom brains and we forget, and that's okay. That's why we have a village to help us. So if you have any questions, you can talk to me, email me, message me. I can answer anything. If you're in the birth and postpartum prep and support group, ask a question there. I'll answer it and maybe somebody else might answer if they have a different perspective. That's fine. Everyone moms differently, and there's not this one thing that works for everybody. So yeah, I'm a no judgment mom. If that's what you want to do with your baby, that's what you want to do. So yeah, I'm just here to give some support, options, and advice the best I know. So thank you for listening to this. I hope you were encouraged. I hope you feel a little bit more prepared for postpartum, and you have this so you can refer back to it. So thank you for listening today. Hope you're encouraged, and happy pregnancy and postpartum. Bye. Take care.